Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for coming. On behalf of Mayor Hewitt, I'd like to call this public meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. It's a public meeting on proposed wastewater rate increases. So, Josh, I'm assuming if you have anything more that you want to say, and maybe we'll take questions from the audience as well as the council.
So we had the meeting here last month to consider, and then we had two public meetings.
Yeah.
We had, if you had both meetings together, we had, I believe, 68 people that showed up between both meetings, and they were anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours long. A lot of great questions, and I didn't bring a presentation because we had the public meetings, and we've talked about this, well, with you guys for 4 years, so.
Yeah, I was at one of those. It was good presentation.
So I'll take any questions.
From the audience, anybody here still have an opportunity? If not, maybe if you're not clear on something.
I have a question after Tim. I guess Tim's coming up. Well, I'll ask the question. So, I guess not. You explained the route of you just got a bond approved.
We got a ban approved,
ban,
yes,
yeah,
correct.
okay.
Yep.
Can you explain that, what happened through that? And,
Like the process?
yeah, and the other, yes, please.
Okay, so we
How it ties into the rate, or
or
No,
just how
just-
we're
we,
here for the rate?
Oh, that's right. We'll have to do that next. Good point. Good point, Dustin.
Okay.
So, no.
if I don't have any questions, I'm happy to talk about that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay to talk about it. I don't have any questions.
I mean, no one has questions on
Anyone
the
can
rate,
interrupt
then-
me at any time, yeah.
And Josh,
Yes,
just
sir.
to clear it up, so maybe to help the audience, this takes, these rates go into effect
January 1st.
January 1st.
Of 2024.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
And the rates, as stated, are for the 120 million project.
Right.
The entirety of the project, up to 121 million.
Yeah.
Yep. If it's less than that, we'll do what we can to lower it, and if it's more than that, we'll have to come back. Hopefully, that never happens.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I just kind of like, if there's no more other questions, I'd kind of like to know the process and
So-
how you get a.
So we came to you guys a few months back and asked for an ordinance for us to bond for the entirety of the project, and part of that was for us to have a bond anticipation note, which would, when we do our first financing, if this is approved, we'll have the ability to do our first financing and close in April sometime. And so part of that was we needed the money for engineering, so we advertised for a ban with Baker Tilly and Ice Miller and Dustin for 5.9 million-ish. So we went out for bids on that. How long did we have to leave it out there, Scott? Do you remember?
1 year.
No, how long did we have to advertise it for? Do you remember?
It was 2 weeks.
We advertised it for 2 weeks, and we got one bidder back for the 5.8 million.
Is that,
I don't have that in front of me, so.
full disclosure, you and I have had this conversation earlier today, and how normal is that just to get one bid back?
Well, I asked Scott that.
You want me to take that, because I have some additional follow-up too from
Sure.
after you and I talked.
Great.
Yeah, would that be good?
Perfect.
Okay. all right.
Perfect, thank
Yeah.
you.
And the bond was for 5.9615 million.
Good evening, Scott Miller with Baker Tilly. So I sent Josh an answer to your question earlier today, but then had some additional conversations with our pricing director. The issue that we have right now, the utility needed money to move the engineering forward so that we can get in a position to be ready to close on the long-term financing with SRF in May. So that's the purpose of this interim financing. And the challenge there right now in this particular market is That note is only outstanding for a year, so we closed last week. It's outstanding for a year. But we also have the ability to call that note early and pay it off in May once we close with SRF, because we don't want
Right.
it outstanding for any longer than it needs to be. So that type of financing doesn't really get a whole lot of attention from buyers, just in general. Because it's 1 year, because we have the option to currently call it, and now in the market that we're in right now, we're in the most volatile part of the interest rate curve. We're in that short-term time frame where the volatility on interest rates is pretty high right now. So it didn't really surprise us that we only got one bid. We were kind of thinking, we'll get one or two for this type of transaction, and we'll be good because we at least got one and we can get the money that the utility needs. So it's just not the type of financing that's very attractive, especially at this time of year as well. It's just not that attractive to bankers.
Is one of those reasons because the benefit to them is minimal?
Yeah,
because of
they
just
don't
the
have a whole
interest?
lot of
It's not-
time to make money
Make
on
money.
it. So,
Okay.
exactly right.
So what does the city's credit rating play? Is there a part that it played in this particular bond?
Not really. The city has a bond rating right now of A+ through Standard & Poor's, and that's based on a general obligation bond that the city did a few years ago, back in 2019.
How
that-
high does that go? I mean, where are we as far as credit ratings? Can you explain that a little bit, please?
Sure. So there are three major credit rating agencies, Standard & Poor's, who you got rated with, Moody's and Fitch. There's a few other smaller ones, but those are the three major ones. They look at the credit quality of communities and companies across the world and rate them based on credit quality and ability to pay. There's a little bit of nuance between say a Standard & Poor's, a Moody's, and a Fitch rating and how they label them, but suffice it to say, most people have heard of a AAA credit rating. The state has a AAA credit rating. A few communities in the state have a AAA. So you range from AAA, that's the highest that you can get. You could go all the way down to a D, which is default, you've not made a payment, but really investment grade is really that AAA down to a triple B, and you're at an A+. So you're really in the middle on the city side with your general obligation debt. And usually a GO rating is going to likely be higher than a utility rating, because with a GO rating, we're talking about property taxes, and the stream of revenue from property taxes is a lot more, or is perceived to be a lot more secure than revenues from a utility, especially in this case where we have a large rate increase that's going to be necessary to do a ginormous project, technical term. So the utility right now, though, doesn't have any outstanding debt, so we really don't have a credit rating on the utilities. And in this particular case, since we're going with SRF, won't really need one, because we're going to attach ourselves to the state's AAA and get their benefit and get that benefit passed to us. So really, that was a whole lot of words to say that the city's rating on this transaction really didn't come into play at all.
Okay, all right. So GL rating and utility ratings, two different?
Two different things.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's perfect explanation. Thank you very much, Scott. Unless somebody else has something.
That's why I asked him to make sure he could answer better than I could.
Chris, I noticed you just walked in. Do you have any questions for the public hearing here on the?
I don't think so, Pete.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to sit down, but I'll stand back up if anybody comes in and asks questions, or you guys think of anything. And
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, Josh.
thank you. We just wait.
You got 20 minutes to sing, Pete.
What's that?
You got 21 minutes to sing.
Oh, no.
21. Okay.
Oh, no.
I'll try to stay on track.
You can close the public meeting. If you want to, if there's nothing further to go.
I can close it early?
I mean, it's not set for a half hour, it's set, we gave ourselves a
To
half hour
start.
if it was
Okay,
necessary.
yeah.
Does it have to be open for, does it have to be open for 15 minutes?
I would wait, 4 minutes.
Okay.
So maybe someone else might show up.
Then you got to sing a short song.
Is the mayor sick?
Yeah.
Next to last paragraph. Wait, the right next to it. Because you guys, next to last. Resolution number, I never got that.
Congratulations.
What's our constitutional limit for bonds?
You're welcome.
What's our constitutional limit for bonds?
14,
That limit,
14, 2023.
I have an email
I thought the council
recently,
needed somebody that they
think it's-
could rely on.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I'm hoping that you can hold
Works
on.
good?
Oh, I think it will. I'd like to be a part of it. I always have been.
I know, I'm not going to come up against you, that you're on the opposite side as far as your party is concerned, but because we
yes, we gotta wait till 6 for reg.
Thanks. Thanks.
Kathleen, the city's DO capacity is a little below 1 million. However, with the Parks Board, we get an extra 2%.
Okay, so,
Because
so
it's
it's
park-
one,
Because it's a Parks District bond, there's an extra 2% on the capital debt limitation, in addition to what the general obligation is.
okay, the general obligation is 1 million?
No, that's about what we have left.
Oh, okay. Because the fire department bond,
Because of that, and because of another general obligation bond the city did in 19? At the end.
2019?
Yeah, 19 or 18.
Okay, so 2% of what?
An additional 2%, and I can't recall what our actual constitutional debt limit is at this point, but it's,
Would this max us out?
no.
Although because it's the Parks Board, it's 2%. And it's a GO bond, correct?
Well, it's gonna, I believe it's gonna be a part GO bond and part,
So that's what we can do with that alone. It could probably still be utilized.
Revenue,
Revenue, yes, sorry, thank you.
What was that? What's that, Kurt?
revenue,
Okay.
because you've got golf course in income to offset it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. No, but it's up for.
At this time, I'd like to close the public meeting on proposed wastewater rate increases, ordinance 30, 2023, at 5:45 PM.
In front of his, the smoke had a carbon filter behind it, took the smoke out. Yeah.
And then yours was the,
One west of that.
okay,
Mine's 2 houses west of it.
you had two. Is there somebody running that now?
Well, there's somebody that owns the one. We don't rent it, we just sell it.
Right, no, you guys sell it, right?
Yeah, so the blue one on the south side of the road is rented, or sold, and then the other one's not rented. Then I just finished one today.
Are you ever, which one was that?
I thought about doing that, but I thought
Were you ever interested in these homes there? I guess the
I eventually
post office.
got going on with me.
Well, I didn't even know that for sale. Yeah, they wouldn't have told anybody, they just went out and bought
They
it.
just went out
Bike work.
and then the next thing I knew, said, they've already got those fenced in.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's third home.
I almost gave it up.
Fenced in. Yeah.
77?
Well, turn it down, Dustin. Get the button.
Is that with a chill? No, Dustin's gonna bring it up.
Chief already tried.
Yeah, set to 60.
I turned it off, it was getting hotter. Having it on.
Oh, okay, good. I'd like to call the regular city council meeting to order at 6 PM, December the 4th, 2023. And if we could stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mark Ramsey, and remain standing for the invocation by Pastor Whitney.
Father, we thank you for your goodness to us. We ask you, Lord, to bless this meeting tonight. Lord, that as topics are discussed, you would fill the council's heart with integrity and wisdom, help them to make the right choices that will benefit our city. We lift up all of our police and fire department, ask you to bless them and keep your hand upon them, all of our first responders and city workers, our street and sanitation department, everybody that works to make this a great place. God, we thank you for them, and we pray your hand of blessing and protection upon them in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Roll call?
Anderson. Here. Guston.
Here.
Plotho.
Here.
Ramsey.
Here.
Russell.
Here.
Saidashny.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Okay. We have the reading and correcting of the Journal of Minutes of regular meeting of, on November the 6th, 2023.
If no one has any changes to the minutes, I'll make a motion that we dispense with the rules and approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Anderson.
Yes.
Guston.
Yes.
Plotho.
Yes.
Ramsey.
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Saidashny.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, Tom, let's go ahead and start with you with the council liaison communications.
I don't have anything to report, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Gusson. Pat?
Okay, I've got Aviation Board. We added a new board member, Joel Ebert. There's also going to be a Christmas party on the 12th at 7 p.m. at the airport. The Civic Center is going to host Cookies with Santa on 225 East Riverside from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Peter and Company will be singing Christmas carols.
Actually, Pat, I'm going to correct that. I'm just going to do solo.
Peter's going to be doing it solo.
Just like, yeah, okay.
There'll be cookies and milk, and Santa will be played by Jason Bowman. Come one, come all.
I have
Thank
nothing
you,
to
Pat.
report.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I just wanted to add to the county government meeting this past month, last November. The county government has designated $5,000 for mental health services, especially in the area of psychiatric care. So I think that's a good thing.
Who's that go to?
Any, like,
Okay.
whoever, the employees there, if they need the services.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, basically for the employees and their families.
great, thank you.
That's all I have.
I don't have anything.
Mark?
The animal control's got 6 dogs and 3 puppies up there. Believe it or not. I thought yesterday or the day before when I was up there, I didn't hear any of them, but wrong. 6 dogs and 3 puppies at the animal control. Parks Board will have a public meeting on December 14th at 5 o'clock about the irrigation and for the Peru Municipal Golf Course. So that'll be at 5 o'clock, December 14th, right here. Miami County Council approved new Councilwoman Stacy Mize on the board, on the library board. I see she's here. Congratulations on that, and hopefully things will go well at there. So, and also everybody just have a nice holiday.
Thank you, Mark. Betsy?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Moving right along, we have unfinished business. Ordinance number 30, 2023, and amended ordinance repealing ordinance number 23, 2013, and inserting in its place a new schedule of rates and charges for service provided by the Municipal Sewage Works Utility of Peru, Indiana. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 30, 2023?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 30, 2023.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Now the discussion.
So anybody, maybe there were some latecomers?
You made a motion to adopt, so that would bring it to a vote. If
So
you
that'd
want
be
to
good.
talk and discuss, then you have to make a motion to consider.
We already
Considered it
considered.
last month.
We already considered. We can
Then
talk about it.
Yeah.
Once you make a motion to adopt, you can't have discussion, correct?
You can't make a second motion, I mean, but you can
We
discuss
can-
it still, but you can't then go back and,
You can still discuss it.
yeah.
Yeah.
The motion's been made, it's been
Yeah.
seconded. That's the motion before the board, or before the council, sorry. You can discuss it, but that motion has to be voted on before any other motion can be
Okay.
voted on.
Okay.
Do you need to have Josh come on?
Do we,
I don't,
I used,
You
Josh, do you wanna
already
come
had the
up
open,
and-
you already had the open meeting. So
Yeah.
just further discussion.
I feel we're ready to adopt.
are we ready to vote?
Ready to
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah, there's not a lot more to say, is there, 4 years
No.
of this?
Just do roll call?
Roll call?
Roll call?
Yeah.
Anderson,
Yes.
Guston,
Yes,
Plotho,
Yes,
Ramsey,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Saidashny,
Yes.
Wolf.
No.
Okay. 6-1.
Okay, moving right along. New business, we have resolution number 2023, a resolution establishing rate tracking factor for the municipal electric utility of the city of Peru, Indiana.
I make a motion, we consider Resolution 2023.
Second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Guston,
Yes.
Plotho,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Saidashni,
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, as I always say, this is every quarter, this is the energy and electric pass-through from our wholesaler, IMPA, Indian Municipal Power Agency. This is solely to pay for the cost of energy, does not go towards maintenance, salaries, or anything like that. This particular time, it is a 0.2 of 1 cent increase on the residential side. General services, 0.7 increase, power rates, industrials, 0.4, to decrease for security lighting, municipal street lighting, and meter traffic lighting. And as I always try to do, compare to other energy providers that we connect to, Duke Energy is 8.37% higher. Heartland RMC is 12.25% higher. Miami Cass RMC is 7.89% higher with the tracker, with our tracker, if you approve it.
Thank you.
Good.
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 2023.
I second.
Roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Guston,
Yes.
Plotho,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Saidashni,
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Moving right along, we have ordinance number 26, 2023, an ordinance to establish an adoption fee for dogs.
I'll make a motion to consider ordinance number 26, 2023.
Second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Guston,
Yes.
Plotho,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Saidashni,
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
This ordinance came about because when the State Board of Accounts was here doing their audit, we passed most everything for animal control, except there was no set amount in the previous ordinance for the adoption fee. So we're just complying with what the State Board of Accounts found we were lacking. And that is the fee that we had been charging. We actually charged 65 most of the time, and somehow one slipped through for 60. And so we're making it in an ordinance so that Greg will know exactly what to charge.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 26, 2023.
Second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Guston,
Yes.
Plotho,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Saidashni,
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, moving right along. Ordinance 32, 2023, an ordinance of the City of Peru, Indiana, concerning park improvements by the Peru Park and Recreation Board through the issuance and sale of bonds and other matters connected therewith.
I'll make a motion to consider ordinance number 32, 2023.
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Guston,
Yes.
Plotho,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Saidashni,
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Gary? You going to go up and discuss this?
How we doing?
Hey, Gary.
Wonderful.
Good.
I don't know. I've got some paperwork here if you guys want it. This is, zones.
Thanks.
Hi, Karen.
am happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Well, might take a minute to read through this.
Gary, did you ever figure out how much you lose in utility costs through leaks?
Never found out. Nope. Actually, I mean, we talked a little bit, me and Jamin, and it never got farther than that. We really didn't know how we would go about trying to determine 40 leaks up there to determine all that water we were losing, so.
Did you ever sit down and talk? Did you ever meet with?
He stopped up at the clubhouse one day. We talked about it, yeah.
What is this all taking, what is this all encompassing besides the irrigation system? Is there anything else in this bond?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think since last time we talked, maybe we were coming after a bond just for the irrigation, but since talking with Eric Walsh, and I know we've turned in a 5-year plan since then to Kurt, they've seen that. We had some basically equipment on our 5-year plan from our 0 to 2 years, starting to replace it. And he's seen that number, and he thought that maybe we should just combine everything we need right now and go after it all in this bond, whether it's irrigation, equipment.
Clubhouse repairs?
You know, we got doors, like my bay door right now in my shop is, I can't open and close it, my front door. It needs redone. Our cart barn doors, they really need redone. We need.
Where's that list?
I'm sorry?
Where's that list?
I don't know if I've got one.
It's for $101,700,000. It'd kind of be nice to see an itemized list.
For the equipment?
Everything.
Which,
Everything.
yeah, I've got quote on the equipment.
The list with estimates?
Yep.
But do you have it for us to see, please?
No, not here, no. Not with me.
Is that in that 5-year plan?
Yes, that was part of the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Can you forward that to all of the council so we can have a copy?
Haven't got the new 5-year plan yet. I'm waiting for that to be completed by Baker Tilly. What we can do is, because we cannot adopt this tonight,
Right.
we have to have another meeting in 2 weeks, and we'll be happy to have the list for you at that point in time, what was included in this.
I'd
Sure,
like
Eric's
to have
got
the
that.
list prior to the meeting, even if it's
Oh,
the
yeah,
day
yeah, that's what I
before.
mean. That's what I mean, yeah. But
Tonight's
we'll
just
have
the
it.
first reading of the.
Yeah, this is just the first reading. You can consider it. And, yeah, they all turned in their 5-year plans because we thought it would be I talked to Miles, thought it was a prudent thing to do to give the incoming council and incoming administration an idea of what was going to happen the next 5 years. And Eric was at the last department head meetings, and these things were discussed, and that's when he rolled these things into this one bond issue, so.
Which I thought was nice for us being able to get a 5-year plan. You know, that's something we should have did. I know that at some point there was a parks 5-year, 10-year plan put together. It was presented at one of our park board meetings months ago. But the golf course was not mentioned in that, really very little.
And I'll be happy to get with Eric tomorrow or Wednesday and say what made up this 1.76 million. That'd be good.
So Gary, this is going to replace all the irrigation
Correct.
and update your vehicles?
Well,
No,
speak on that, it's not necessarily that it will do that. The irrigation is going to come first, correct?
correct.
And if there are extra funds, if we can extend, because the irrigation quote came back higher than what you anticipated.
And there's a leeway there. It was 1.2 to 1.5, which we might have you spend that 1.2. There might be, you know, sections and stations that we want to take away for future projects down the road. Where right now we want irrigation in that area, but maybe down the road we don't because we got plans for that area.
Because you guys were under $1 million when you first presented it.
And I think that was a guesstimate. That wasn't a estimate from the Hydro Designs himself. Remember, I came and got money to get this guy here. This guy came in, we paid him to do the design. The first guys that were here months ago at the meeting, they're actually, the one guy's my chemical rep, but he's part of Site 1 who put us with this Hydro Design. So they were giving guesstimates there.
So does he have a design
Yes, and I can email that to you too. I was going to print them off, but it's so little, you guys won't be able to really read it. But yes, I have that. It's basically a final draft. He got it to me. We looked over it. I liked it. Looked good.
I called and talked with Allison Paul, and she was shocked that we hadn't been given any information.
Oh, I presented it to the Parks Board meeting
Yeah,
last
but she
month.
was shocked that we hadn't, the city council hadn't been given any, because she had understood that we were
Mark had
supposed
copies of this stuff, I believe.
But the city council, for us to look at it and consider.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware of it. Sorry.
Well, because she had been told, well, I'm not going to speak for her, but you have to understand, this is $1.7 million.
I'm completely aware of what we're looking at, what we're going after.
How much of this is going to be GO and how much of it's going to be,
Still, because we're not sure what that final number is, we're not sure what those allocations will ultimately be, or how we'll actually, it might be a general obligation, the entire thing, it might be something you could do all of it, general revenues or net revenues. Just not sure yet. Got to get the project details and the specifics. We're just asking that the bond ordinance be passed. That way we can go up to that 1.7. It's not guaranteed that, because if it only costs $1 million, you're obviously not going out for the whole 1.7 million. But you have to have the bond ordinance in place to be able to even do that.
so, if I understand correctly, without knowing the details, we're being asked.
No, it's not.
Okay, so explain, so I understand better.
You're passing the parameters of the bond, not to exceed the 1.75 or $1.76 million. And that has the 20% contingency built into it. No different than what we did with the bond ordinance for our long-term control plan. There's that contingency built into that. Again, as far as what's financing it or how it's paid for, it's going to be net revenues or it's going to be general obligation. Obviously, it works towards the city's capital debt limitations favorably if it's net revenues.
Right.
If it's not net revenues, and it's general obligation bond, it's just paid out by taxes and tax revenues, so property tax.
Gary, have you considered using some CETA money to drop this bond? Because how much CETA money do we have? Do you know right offhand? Because it's
Is that the ARP money?
No, it's CETA. It's because it's a quality of life. It's a quality of place. Economic.
Well, you've got
Development.
about 3 million, of which
Okay.
1 million is already
Right.
allocated for the
Infrastructure.
yes, for the north.
Right.
For North Broadway. So, and there are other, I'm not sure, there are other items coming out of there, but there's about $3 million now, which 1 million's already spoken for.
Okay. What if we consider that? Because that would take down, because it is economic development, that would take down the bond and the debt for the taxpayers to pay back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for whatever. To be honest with you, I don't know what you're talking about. CETA fund?
Okay.
I don't think you want to run it down that low.
No, I mean,
You
I-
really don't.
No.
To be
Well,
honest with you, I'm here to take care of your golf course, maintain your grass.
Okay.
If we run it down that low and then Jim comes in with something, we're out of luck.
Well, I find this all like super perplexing
weird.
because we're hurrying to do this. We're going to have a special meeting on the 18th. I mean, I guess I just don't understand why not let the next administration and the next council take this on.
You guys were for it. That's why it was, you guys expressed interest in getting it done. And your term expires this month. So you guys expressed the interest,
Okay.
so that's why things were done to bring it to this council while you guys were supporting it.
That was kind of back when it was less, that the estimate was less than $1
It
million.
was 3-4 months ago, too.
Yeah.
And I mean, it took him a little while to get here to do his thing and for us to finally get the numbers back. And once he's seen the my 5-year plan, Eric Walsh mentioned, hey, maybe we go try to get all this. So, again, and for me, I barely know how bonds work, be honest with you, it's either we got to do something or we got to do something.
And I agree with you, Gary.
One way or another. I mean,
agree.
obviously, the city doesn't want to, the taxpayers don't want to keep paying for golf courses. So, I've got the end of year number here if you guys want copies of this. I believe it's one of the best years. I know it is in my 6 years.
I want a copy.
Yeah, I'd like a copy too.
Revenue-wise, round-wise, number-wise, I believe, I haven't got what occurred in the last couple of weeks, but as of the Parks Board meeting, we were under budget compared to last year where we were well, every year I've been over in the red. I believe I'm not in the red. I did really good this year on that part, but you guys want a copy of this?
Yes.
This is from our TSNAP program.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what Jason is doing is he's got
Thanks.
3 years ago, Kurt.
Yeah, sure.
I think he's got, what is it, Jason, about 2 years? 2 years, he's got it written there on the top, basically.
Basically, I went back as far as TSNAP would allow me to.
Okay.
That's when the numbers were actually being tracked.
Which is just 3 years ago now or something, we've had that system, so.
The rest of it-
I think as far as that side of it, we try to do everything that you guys ask of us to do. I tried to not go over my budget, and I tried to bring in a little more money, and I think we did that. Jason knows more about that than I do. He makes it sound like it was a good year, so.
Well, there's no doubt that, the numbers look really good. And you guys have worked your rear ends off, and something, if we're going to keep the golf course, something has to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it goes back, everybody knows it. We've neglected that place for a long time, and unfortunately, trust me, I'm the first person to tell you it's a horrible time to come do this stuff. I get it. But when we can't do our jobs right, we also got a problem, and that's where we're at up there. So.
If we don't fix the irrigation, it costs more money to run it.
Well, and then, we've got concerns about, it being a taxpayer burden, but then this is going to be another taxpayer burden too. So, it's going to be sixes, although you guys can do some of the revenue, hopefully a lot of it. But it's a hard rationale.
I get it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's up to you guys.
We have one of the best golf courses in the state. I'm proud of it, and I hope we can fix it.
Yeah, it's came a long ways, I know, since I've been there.
Not everybody plays golf, but it's a draw.
Have you talked with economic development at all about this?
Nope.
Maybe between now and 18?
I don't talk to, nobody really comes talk to me. Golf courses doesn't get talked about much unless we're talking about how much money we're losing, and we tried to help that this year. Like I said, I know there was a committee, or there was, they put together a 5-10-year parks plan. They presented it at my
That
parks
didn't
board
include you, and that was...
I didn't get invited to none of them meetings.
I know.
I
That
didn't
was
get
part of
talked
my-
about in
I
it.
was pretty
We got
upset
talked
about
about very briefly,
Yeah.
and we were mentioned about finding a way to start funding for new irrigation. And we have that. We've already had that. It's the non-reverting fund. We've had that before I was here. At the time, it had $80,000 in it.
Is it possible for you and Kurt and maybe even the mayor to get together with economic development between now and the 18th? I think that Jim Tidd's here in the audience.
I don't have many golfers right now, so I got time.
Jim
What
Tidd?
are you wanting us to do with
To see if
economic
economic development can bring in would offer some setup money. Do you want to get in on this conversation or not really, Jim? Do you want to get in on this conversation or not really? Where do you stand? Would you mind coming up here so we can get you on? Sure. So we can, where do you stand on helping out the golf course?
Well, no, I don't disagree that it's a quality of place initiative, and it's not necessarily Makita dollars, but it's the county economic development income tax or city economic development income tax. So if you want to apportion a part of that to help go towards funding, to me that's that's something we ought to take a look at. I would tell you, going back to Kurt's comment, that we are looking at some other potential projects for seeded next year, and that includes, we're still waiting to hear about the splash park. And so that's going to be a one-to-one match with DNR money for that project. And then also Canal Street, we're getting ready to do the Ready project, this next round of Ready that we're looking at to revamp Canal Street for the improvements to the Y and then the housing. So yeah, there are some things that are coming up that are going to pull unseated, but how can we put a project list together and see how it shakes out? I'm more than willing to, like to be invited to the conversation, so.
That'd be great. To Gary's point, you guys have been left out of the discussion with the parks.
Kathleen, I would like to say he was not left out. We sent the invite to Cliff to invite all department heads.
Right.
So I don't want to go on record as we left you out of the parks discussion, because that's not what the case was.
Me and Cliff are two separate departments.
I understand, but I didn't have your contact information, so we sent it to Cliff to make sure.
He never
everyone
relayed
was
the
invited.
message to me. I mean, obviously, I would have been there. I'd have been the first one there, but I also don't, it's fine. It is what it is. Nobody wants to hear, it's a lot of money to run a golf course. I get it.
But would you and Kurt and Jim, could you guys set up a time to get together before the 18th and see if we can get together for,
Absolutely.
to
Or
discuss
whatever.
anything that economic development might be able to help with?
Well, again, they're not going to give money. No,
It's not Makita giving.
I understand
money.
that.
It's the use of seeded.
I understand
funds,
that.
Which is controlled by the city and council.
Right. So,
But yes, I'd love to have an input on seeded and projects get funded out of seeded. It'll be kind of a good opportunity. So let us know when and where, and we'll be there.
Gary, I will send you Jim Tidd's information, and let's go from there. And if you guys can get together and have a discussion, I don't know if this is going to push it out past the end of the year, but I just think we need to look at all the options. And as you know, as you said, you're not aware of all the options that could be out there, but
No, absolutely not.
if we could take down 100,000 even off the bond, that'd be great. So I'll send, Jim, I will send Gary the information. Your information, is that okay with you?
Yeah.
All right, all right. I'll send you that, okay, and we can pursue that. And I'll check in with you.
Yep.
And see where it goes, okay? But
Absolutely.
Kurt, did you say you'd send us a list of the improvements?
I will get with Eric to see what numbers he used to arrive at that.
Thanks, Gary.
Anything else?
Anybody in the audience have anything to say?
Thanks, Gary.
Exhibit A available somewhere?
I don't know. What is Exhibit A?
It's supposed to be attached, it's not there.
I beg your pardon?
It says it's supposed to be attached.
That's not this one.
Oh, that's another thing.
It's whereas the Park and Recreation Board has determined to issue bonds in the amount
That's
not
right.
to exceed $1.76 million, complete park projects as more fully described in Exhibit A.
I did not receive that.
Okay.
So I will ask for Exhibit A.
Thank you.
Great question.
Okay, Gary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Okay, moving right along, Resolution 21, 2023, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Peru, Indiana, approving certain matters in connection with the amendment of an economic development area and plan.
I'll make a motion to consider Resolution 21, 2023.
Second.
Anderson.
Yes.
Guston.
Yes.
Clotho.
Yes.
Ramsey.
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Saidashnik.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
That's you, Jim, I think. Yep.
Jim, yeah, you want to come up,
Yep,
Jim?
that's you. Come on down.
Thank you, and before I talk about this resolution, I would just like to go back, and I'm sorry, Gary left, but to go back to what Brooke was saying. I apologize that he didn't get an invite. Not sure, because we invited Parks Board and Cliff. Not knowing the structure, I didn't know they were two separate organizations, but I can assure you, and Mark was one of the people that was on this committee, that the irrigation system of the golf course, I think, was actually one of the #1 projects that were listed that needed to be improved. So it wasn't that it wasn't oversighted or it wasn't discussed. It absolutely was, because the golf course is an asset to the community. The resolution 21 that you have before you explain a little bit about what's going on. Every year, we kind of take a look at when we get the disbursements from the county regarding TIF in each one of our allocation areas. We make sure that the parcels that we've got identified in those TIFs are still relevant to the development plan and those kind of things, seeing and making sure that there still should be in the development plan. And so in this particular case, when we looked, and have you seen I know the minutes say
they're on
attached one, so.
It is attached.
Okay.
Yeah.
I made copies just in case. But when we looked at, and you'll see that 95% of those properties really are either Peru Community Schools owned, city owned. That property on there that's with Makita, that's 75 South Broadway, the old H&R Block building. Deerdorf Farms was actually if you're familiar where the house is, as you go across 24, as you start up Old Mexico Road, there was a house that's right there.
Yeah.
Well, now that's considered to be residential, so that's why that's on the list. So anyway, these are the parcels that we're recommending be deleted from the US 31 tax allocation area, or TIF. And so the authority took action as the Redevelopment Commission back on November the 8th issued its declaratory resolution recommending that these parcels be deleted. We updated the economic development plan for the TIF areas and made those changes, deleting those. We actually then went to as required, to the Plan Commission and asked for their endorsement or recommendation, which they passed at their last Plan Commission meeting on November the 28th. So this step is to get the City Council's consideration, approval, or recommendation. And then the last step is we have to hold a public hearing before the Makita meeting, which we'll do in January. And then the final action will be for Makita to issue what's called a confirmatory resolution after the public hearing. And then we submit those documents to the county assessor, and those parcels are deleted off of the allocation area. But we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
There's a couple of private businesses that are on this. Are you indicating that they don't pay taxes?
No, they pay taxes. It's just that when you look at the areas that are included in TIF, one of the qualifications are, what's their opportunity for expand or to make investment. The one that is listed here of TDB4 LLC, that's the existing subway there right next to the circus. And so they're so compact that likelihood of them being able to expand and meet the requirements of the TIF plan is very unlikely. So that's why they're on that list.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that they're not paying taxes. It's just not where those taxes go. And so those taxes will go back to the general fund and not to
Are most of these nonprofit?
Most of them are. Fort County, of course, is a non-for-profit, and then, of course, the city is a non-for-profit. And the festival's a non-for-profit, and the community schools are non-for-profit.
I'd kind of like to table this and give us an opportunity to look at it. Can you bring it back on the 18th to the next council? But there's some questions I have about such an important declaratory statement.
Now, you realize that he's taking it out of the TIF district.
Right,
So he's putting it back on the tax rolls.
Right.
If there's taxes.
yeah,
So we're not giving them anything.
right.
I
So what
don't
would be the
agree.
benefit of tabling it?
I just kind of like to research it more.
I don't agree with you.
Okay, that's the grandeur of a council. We can agree and disagree.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 21, 2023.
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Anderson.
Yes.
Guston.
What's the motion again? I didn't.
We're
To
going to
adopt.
adopt.
Yes.
Plotho.
No.
Ramsey.
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Sahidashni.
Yes?
Wolf.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Moving right along. City of Peru Common Council Ordinance 33, 2023. An ordinance to amend ordinance in Chapter 90.
I'll make a motion to consider ordinance number 33, 2023.
Second.
Who's second? Thanks, Steve. Okay. Anderson.
Yes.
Guston.
Yes.
Plotho.
Yes.
Ramsey.
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Sahidashni.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
So the City of Peru Plan Commission met on November 28th, 2023 to discuss this ordinance on allowing chickens within the corporate city limits of Peru. The Plan Commission gives an unfavorable recommendation of 3 yeses and 4 nos. And if you guys have questions, we do have Jennifer Maggart here. She's the one that did all the research and put the whole ordinance together.
Okay.
Do you want to speak, Jennifer?
I did have more information regarding some of the concerns from the last meeting.
The last meeting it hasn't been posted. I tried to watch it and it's not posted on YouTube.
Well, you can't get,
Could be. I loaded it.
mayor's not here.
Might have been yesterday morning.
Couldn't find it today. The last one was listed, you just looked right before
Right,
the
I just
meeting.
looked right before the
last one
meeting.
was like October something. I just would like to watch it.
I tried, it wasn't on there the last time I checked, and I've been checking all day. So.
Yeah, it's not on there, unless you just put it on there.
So there were a lot of concerns with the ordinance. It's pretty restrictive, but there was a reason I wrote it for that. Everybody was concerned with, animal control, chickens getting loose, and it was mentioned there was a lot of problems before. I guess I'll try to follow this. It would be a little bit easier. Under this ordinance, they will be, they're expected to be maintained by committed owners. Prohibition prevents the funding so the city can deal with violations that could possibly occur already because there are people that already have them here. Regardless of whether they're prohibited, people still will have them. So just saying you can't have them is not going to help the welfare of the animals and the community. Right now, there's at least 110 people that have signed the petition in support of it. That doesn't include everybody that was here at the last meeting that agreed that something should change. This ordinance should provide support for responsible owners and guidance for animal control on what to do if he does have to encounter them and take them into custody. Some of the key details were, it's really restrictive on confinement and to coop and run. There's nobody allowed to free range. It must stay clean and dry to prevent odor, be fully enclosed to cover the run, preventing predator attack or escape. Number of hens is restricted further to property size and ability to locate coop 20 feet from human dwellings, 12 feet from property lines. Unfortunately, rentals can't have them. There's just too much risk that they would be abandoned. And nobody can have them on vacant lots. It has to be somewhere where, it has to be a residence where you're living. And then there's 3,182 owner-occupied residences in town, so that narrows it down to those homes, and then it can further be there will be less than that depending on if you qualify or not. The permit's going to be $70. That revenue will go to animal control and building for inspections. As far as how many chickens you can have, you have to have 2,000 square feet per chicken, up to 16,000. So that means you can have up to 8 chickens in the city under this. And the average lot size is 6,600 square feet, which means most people would be able to have about 3 chickens. If your coop can be seen from your neighbor's yard, there has to be a visual barrier to consider your neighbors. Coop has to be 4 square feet. Run has to be 12 square feet per bird. Max is out at 50 for the health of the birds and to prevent people keeping excess hens, having huge coops so that you can keep more birds than you're supposed to have. The coop cannot cause a nuisance. It must be inspected before and after building, but before chickens are added. The ordinance is clear on odor control. The amount of chickens for 3 would be about 6 pounds a week. It must be composted properly, kept in a sealed container until removed from the property to not cause a nuisance. These strict requirements go above and beyond what is required for dog owners and cat owners. It should be more than sufficient to contain any odor. Having chickens may also help reduce waste. They can eat weeds and kitchen scraps instead of going in the trash bin, so that would help actually with waste management. Coops are to be re-inspected and re-permitted each year to ensure they remain in compliance, and there is an annual fee of $70. This ordinance only allows for 3 nuisance or code violations, or your permit can be revoked. 3 chickens would provide about a dozen eggs a week, gives access to food in a town where we have limited grocery stores.
Jennifer, can I ask you a question? One person sent me a message saying that they support this, but they think that the expense of having to do this far outweighs the benefit of having your own eggs. What's your counter?
My counter is that passing, it's not about saving money, it's about considering the welfare and property rights of all involved, and not just the opinions of the opposition. They provide more value to the community than just an egg source. It opens the ability for our kids to participate in 4-H. We entrust people with cats and dogs that produce a comparable, if not larger, amount of waste, and the same abuses and risks potentially exist. The ordinance is limited to those who will qualify, and the fees are such that it would deter applicants from forfeiting their investment. Issues of chickens being a problem in the past were referenced during the meeting, but no specific cases could be cited, let alone rampant uncontrollable issue. When the current ordinance took effect in 2012, it appears they were placed there as a convenience over potential problems. The animals listed in the prohibited section all require different care, and this ordinance addresses the care small flock hens would need to be removed from that list. And the animal control was concerned about how he's going to deal with diseased chickens. I contacted the Indiana Board of Animal Health. They deal with, if anything like that happens, he is actually not to touch the flock. You call IABOA, and they come, they send their vets, they will test your flock. If they're sick, they will euthanize them if need be. They will dispose of the bodies, and they will pay for all of the cost associated with that, even replacing the flock, they told me. That's in cases of reportable disease, not like just my animal is sick and I need to take it to the vet. The other case was if there's like inhumanity conditions, he can call and they will enforce him in documentation and seeing if the animal needs any care. If it's well enough to be rehomed, he will then still be responsible for rehoming it. But if it's, if it needs to put down, they take care of that too. So, and then the other reasons, I guess, if they would be taken into custody, he was worried what he would do with them. And I was looking at the code. Usually dogs have like a waiting period where they can be returned to their owners. So if they're permitted chickens, they should hopefully be able to be identified and returned quickly. If they're not, then they've probably gotten loose, can't account for every single one of those, just like a cat or dog. But the last issue would be if he actually had to take them in for code violation, he could give them so many days to rehome them themselves. If they end up in his care, he'll have a window to figure out what to do with them. And also, they would be responsible for any fees rehoming them after that if they couldn't do it themselves. So hopefully that would limit any issue of him ever even having to take them into custody. Like with this ordinance, hopefully, it's going to be, most people that are going to go through all of these hoops are not going to find themselves in that situation, most likely. So, and then if all of that fails and he still ends up with some, I also found there's a local check and rescue that she picks them up and she takes roosters and rehomes them at any time. She's in Lebanon, Indiana. And then I've got a few local farmers that have volunteered too. I will take them if I have to, if he needs somebody to take them to a rescue center. And I think that's all I have, if anybody has any questions.
Who polices this? Like far as the permitting and making sure that you're 50 feet off of here, 10 feet off of there? And then if you're in violation, who is the department that would monitor that?
Well, the building inspectors would have to do the initial, like the building permits and all of that.
Have you spoke to them about this and their concerns?
I have not. I wasn't told that I needed to do that.
I'm just saying they're already overloaded on stuff to let alone
Well,
to take another task on
Yes.
that.
With the $70 permit, which is much higher than most permits that we charge for anything in this town, I think there should be plenty there to cover the cost of the permitting. And it would be only annual, and again, with the, 3,182, how many people are really going to qualify out of that number? Like, how much really is it going to?
I'm not talking about the people that are following the rules. I'm talking about the people that see their neighbors having chickens and they decide they're going to have their own because they don't know that there's an actual ordinance that allows them or prohibits them from having them anymore. And who's going to be the one that tells them that they can't?
Actually, Greg has to do the application fee, and it's going to be whoever the code enforcement officer is, who's going to be doing the code enforcing.
So Haley, so Greg would, animal control, whomever that is, would confiscate the chicken
And then
if there's,
here is what my problem is, right?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm
Also,
just,
they're supposed to display their permit on the coop. That's written in there as well, so.
right. I'm just talking about the people, we already currently have them in the city that don't have this. And does this open up the door for more people to not go ahead and spend the money on this permit and just do it?
I don't
And then
think that it affects that
What department will be
number.
the one that will be out doing this job?
that's my question.
Right, it would be, animal control is in charge of policing all of these animals, but, they're already there, and right now, the only thing prohibition is doing is just turning the back on the animals. So really, whether, if we don't do anything about it, it's just, people can still have them regardless of whether or not this rule's here. This provides for, the fees from the people that are willing to adhere to this, to pay for those people that are going to violate. And hopefully people, will start complying because this is.
So Jennifer, this is kind of a Haley question, I think, isn't it, Steve? Who's going to police it and write it up and what happens?
So right now, what we do with chickens is code enforcement will take the pictures and send out a letter. If they do not comply within the amount of time that they have, then Greg is supposed to go out and get them, or animal control, sorry. And so this would kind of be all a group collaborative, I guess you would say, on the whole policing, because yes, the building inspectors would be the ones to check on the building of the coops and the runs. I would do the setbacks, and then Greg would do the permitting and the fees and the violations.
So if he has to confiscate a chicken, is the animal control set up to?
We haven't, from as far as I know, we have not had to actually confiscate any chickens just yet, because everybody gets the letters and then they get rid of the chickens.
So when it does happen, or if it does happen, what would happen? What would the animal control person do if they are forced to confiscate a chicken?
Without,
Where does he put them?
Yeah.
We would have.
and that was one of his concerns at the meeting, is he was like,
I don't think he can take them, so they just get to stay there until they can be dealt with.
he would need to build a coop. It all depends on if this ordinance passes. He would need to build a coop. He would have to figure out where to put that coop in the runs. And then, like she said, it would be a certain amount of days that he would be able to find out if he would have to take them there or if they would get rid of them themselves for the rehoming or whatever.
It already says funds gathered from the permit will be used to maintain animal control facilities that may be impacted by the enforcement.
Right, but apparently there's not.
That means that we would have to build them.
That's why I'm asking, yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah, I've had several people talk to me about this so far, and one of the concerns was if, say, I live here, and then this person goes, gets a permit, and they don't necessarily follow all the rules that are in place, and I've got a young child over here, and there's feathers flying everywhere, and airborne diseases with my child in a yard and playing in the backyard with somebody that's not, just because we have an ordinance doesn't mean they're going to follow it. So what happens at that point? Who's going to take care of that? Can I complain that my child has to deal with this and your chickens are automatically gone because I don't want them there? Or, who's going to be the one to determine whether there is airborne diseases or whether they are endangering my child that's playing in the yard next to the chicken coops or the smell?
I'm not sure like how people deal with like normal nuisances, but that's why, there's 3 violations here, so if you complain 3 times and it was a legitimate nuisance, that would be it. Like, they would have the violations, that would be it. They would have to disband the coop and get rid of it. So, I don't know what the normal protocol is. I don't know if 3 is too much, not enough, like, it should be like, right now, get rid of it. I don't know, but I did put that in there so that it's not so difficult. If you do have a neighbor that gets them and they are just not following the rules and they're ruining your life, you don't have to get a lawyer and figure out how you're going to complain the right way to get it taken care of. Like, it's 3 violations. If there's a violation in here, if you're it refers to the nuisance codes, if you're stacking stuff up around your coop, if you're leaving food out and there's mice, all of that should be.
It's basic
in the
animal
ordinance.
control violations, correct?
Like any building violation too that would cause, anything that would cause varmints around your coop to come live around, you have to keep it clean and
then
tidy and.
If you don't, that draws in other vermin, which could cause other problems. And then you have where would you take your compost and waste?
You have to keep it in a sealed
But
container.
you get a build-up, and then where do you take it?
You throw it in the trash, just like dog
Trash
and cat
can?
poop. Dog and cat poop goes in the trash
That,
can.
it builds up really fast. Do you really throw it into the garbage?
What does everyone else do with their dog poop?
I don't know if that's a good place to throw it.
My aunt raised chickens on her farm. I'm so glad there's not a coop beside my house.
Yeah, that would be a large scale.
I'm just worried about opening up a can of worms on putting extra work on all the different departments that are already complaining that they're overworked, and the fact that who's going to come in next? Are they going to want pygmy goats, or are they going to want potbelly pigs, or
Well,
whatever?
if they have to go through as much as I went through to
Right.
prove
And
that people can keep 3 chickens without it
You did a
killing
great
their neighbors,
job
I don't
of
think
the
they're going to try.
coops. You did a great job of the coops. Dustin, I have a question. This is legal. In order to get this through, in order to get the compliance, do we have to pass this ordinance for the compliance to be in place? Right now, I feel like I'm putting the cart before the horse.
Well, the ordinance is what spells out, excuse me, the ordinance is what spells out how to comply in the compliance,
So in order to get the coop up at the animal facility, the only way to get the coop up there is to pass the ordinance?
and appropriation for funds and,
I see.
And the staffing to maintain it.
yeah.
Well, I don't think that the animal control person doesn't have enough, is overworked at this point, but that's not the issue, really.
I
think
just
the
don't
animal
know
control
if,
person-
That's one of the issues.
Well, but the animal control person right now, I think that he has time, but there's a lot of other issues. I really wanted to vote for this because of property rights.
I would really hope that everyone would consider how, when people do have chickens to get rid of, how fast it needs, how fast they are to rehome. I know that everyone's worried about the animal control, but I don't think that the passing of this ordinance is going to increase the chickens that he's going to have to deal with. I think everybody else not following the ordinance, that they're going to not follow it
That's what I'd be
regardless. That's going to be the problem, and then you're sitting there with no money to deal with it. So, and also,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
welfare of the animals aren't being considered because you have all of these flocks all over the place that are,
You
you
don't
know,
need to come up
no
here.
one wants to report them because they're
There's
not
a lady
supposed to
out
have
there
them.
who'd like to make comment.
Gloria, would you please come up here so we can hear you?
Okay, I just have one question. This went before the planning commission already?
Yes.
Okay, and I haven't heard you say tonight whether it passed or not.
It did
Yeah,
not.
she said initially when she came up that it was a 4-3.
Over it so much. If the planning commission says
So the planning commission is only an advisory board, and whatever we do at the planning commission, it goes to them with their recommendation, and then they make the final decision.
So, I mean, but you girls are really fighting for it, and that's why I'm asking, you know, if the planning commission said no, then why are you so adamant in pushing it through? That's my question.
Because this is something that I want, it's, you know, I have property rights, I understand everybody's opinion. I spent a lot of time writing this so that it would not be a nuisance, and if something is not a nuisance, you have a right to use your property in a reasonable way. So I'm still fighting for it because I still have not been given, you know, I have not heard all the real stories of real chickens running around. I haven't heard any of these things. I've just heard we're worried about burdening animal control, which, yes, it's a concern, but I have written all the funds in for this, and I know people don't want more work, but, I mean, hopefully it would prevent work the way it's written. It's going to provide the funds for a problem that's going to exist, whether, you know, you can prohibit it, but it's not going to go away. The chickens will still be here, and then the owners that want to own them legally are the only ones being punished for it, not being allowed to use their property.
Kristen, did you have something to say?
Hey, I'm not going to come forward because
Yeah.
the wheelchair thing. So I guess what I would say is that, Steve, you're saying we already had a chicken problem, but we don't have any chicken solutions, and this ordinance would create chicken solutions. Not only would it do that, it would give you possibly $850 per violator to deal with those issues, and Family Farmer Home is selling a chicken coop kit for $200. So we could build a coop, put it somewhere up at the animal pound, and I mean, I don't ever hear a report from animal control that says, wow, we chase chickens every day this week. I don't see that it's a huge problem, but if it's an existing problem, this solves it.
Well, actually, it's already solved. There's already an ordinance that doesn't allow you to do it. It
Yes.
just needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, I was here.
Instead of adding,
Yeah, I was
you're
here
just
the
going
night
ahead
we
and fix
passed
it.
that ordinance. And I remember that it was just so reactionary. It was, stuff was happening in Logansport, and they said, wow, we don't want that in Peru. And so we passed this giant sweeping ordinance that didn't involve any research, and it didn't involve anybody finding out how this ought to be regulated. And what we have here is a woman who did a whole lot of research, and she has patiently answered many questions from many different citizens and boards, and she's a citizen too. So she's here tonight exercising her right of citizenship to ask for a right from you. And I think that everything she's put together is really reasonable, and I'd love to see her have a chance. And as for me, I have a small enough lot, I wouldn't qualify for chickens. And I called my dad, who has chickens, and asked him lots of questions about this, about all of the concerns, because I wanted to know if the concerns were legit, how would you handle things? And I was shocked at how much chicken owners love their chickens. I mean, like, if you want to have chickens, you have to pay for taking care of those chickens for like 5 or 6 months before you get eggs. I mean, this is not someone who's going to go out and get chickens and start Old MacDonald in their backyard. It just doesn't sound that way. And so I think that as a citizen, I want to see my city council vote in favor of freedom whenever they have an opportunity. So this is an opportunity for a property owner to exercise her property rights, and that's why I think the Planning Commission got this one wrong. But it was a split decision, and that would be my opinion. Thanks for asking.
I'd like to make a comment as a councilman and also as a property owner. Number one, seems like the focus should be on what do we want people to think of Peru, Indiana. When you think of Peru, Indiana, where's the focus going to be? We're trying to develop this city to make it safe, rehab old homes, okay, make the community safe for our kids, all right, get drugs off the street, all right. We don't have a cat ordinance. I don't know how many people have come to me and say, look, Cats are running around everywhere. Now, the potential of having chickens running around everywhere. So we added another, let me finish, please. Okay? So potentially, we don't have a cat ordinance, right? People are concerned about that. They run through the yards, okay? So they're chasing dogs, they're chasing cats. And now we're going to bring in chickens. And how is that going to improve, okay, the atmosphere of Peru, Indiana, and what we want people to think Peru is what? Safe. Let's keep, I agree with Tom.
Overregulated.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think, number one, we could really go beyond and say, I have these rights, I have these property rights. I want to start bringing in goats, maybe a little pig.
Then you deal with that at that time.
If you can do that without it causing a
But-
nuisance.
Well, yeah, but I think, again, if we were to survey every single person here in Peru, Indiana, I think probably people would vote against it because I think I don't want to have chickens around my home. I don't think it's the right atmosphere. I think they belong out in the country. We have certain divisions. We got baseball diamonds. I don't want somebody to build a baseball diamond next to my home, but and with the animals. And the fact that your advisory board has already voted against this, and if there's some expertise on that advisory board, then I think we should take that into consideration.
So here's your logic. Well, I'm not going to.
If they
No,
had
don't
given
tell
me
me what my
a good
logic is.
reason, I wouldn't be here tonight. And I did not hear any reason other than what people brought up tonight, and I have addressed all of those concerns in this ordinance. And I can't do anything about feral cats with the ordinance about chickens, but it does improve the city because, well, you know, I want to live in a city that allows me to have and grow, sustain myself. And right now, I can live at my home. I don't have very many jobs to choose from. I can't have any chickens there. For what? Like, I can't, why can I not do that on my own property when I'm not causing a nuisance to anybody else?
Ms. Maggart, can you give me some examples of other cities approximately our size that have chickens that are successful or don't have issues? Or
I spoke to the code enforcement in Wabash. It's not on their books right now, so you can't find it online, but he told me they have allowed chickens for more than 5 years now. They allow people to have them. I asked, has the problems increased since you guys quit enforcing? And he said, no, they're not picking anything up any more than a regular dog or cat, so it's not impacted them insanely. I've talked to Logansport, and it's the same thing like that everyone's worried about here. Everyone over there thinks that you can have them, so they're all getting them, but you can't have them. And when they do have to trap them because no one's following any rules, they're just running out. Everyone has 10 and 20 and 100. Who cares? Because there's no rules. They don't have anywhere to take them. So, but they're not doing anything about it either. Just like
But they
us.
don't have
We just
one that
don't wanna have
allows
them.
it, though, correct?
just Wabash.
Logansport does not have one that allows it.
Logansport doesn't. Wabash does. I researched 55 other cities, though, that allow chickens, different ways. I looked at all their ordinances before I ever wrote this. Tried to take a little bit from each one and make ours to fit our city, so.
Jennifer, you've got somebody behind that I'd like to hear from. Joe, can I?
Have you read this ordinance? Everybody read the ordinance?
Yes.
This is one of the most restrictive ordinances we have on the books, period. And if followed, will not be a burden on the city. That's just, with all the research I've done, it's not going to be a burden on the city. There is one little thing in this ordinance that I think should be removed, and that's where you have to go ask your neighbor.
It's already been removed.
gone.
So, with all the research, the numbers of cities she's talked to, I've talked to, they are not having a problem with it. So I'm all for this.
What city have you talked to that's comparable to Peru, that are laid out like ours?
Converse?
No, like a big city, not, something comparable to Peru.
Indianapolis, Terre Haute,
They're all class 3
Bloomington, Valparaiso.
Valparaiso allows chickens. Indianapolis does.
Yep.
Can I
Can I say something here?
Tim, go ahead.
Come up here, please. Jennifer, will you let him come up, please?
I actually grew up around chickens. When I was a kid, at my grandmother's house, we had chickens, and then when we moved out, we had chickens at our house. And this was out in Mesa, Arizona. Lot bigger lots out there than there are here. Now, so I have some concerns about this, given the way that the town is here, because even out there, we had our chicken coop way at the end of the property, and it's probably 40, 50 feet away from the house. And when it rained, you know, it's desert out there, so it's generally dry and there's not a whole lot of smell, but as soon as it rained, you would smell it all the way up at the back of the house, you know, cock-a-doodle-doo-doo. And so we got 20 feet here, and I think, and yeah, we're talking about, oh yeah, you got to clean it and stuff, and it's just like dog poop and cat poop, and it's not, because chicken poop is a whole different animal. It's
literally.
Yeah, it is, but it's a lot of wet stuff. You're going to have to dig up a bunch of dirt in order to get it. When they poop on the wood or the structures around, you got to go out there and scrape it off. It doesn't just pick up and go in a trash bin and it's most basically gone. So there's some concerns about that. Now, I think in some ways this is too restrictive, and in other ways it's not restrictive enough. I think that there's more emphasis being placed on, you know, how big or how many, you know, how many square feet of space you have to have on your lot and this kind of thing in order to get a second chicken and a third chicken, up to 8 chickens, I guess, for 16,000 square foot lot, which is a pretty, I don't know any lots that I've seen normally around here that are that big. But I think if you were to be able to get a setback from another house that's large enough, it really wouldn't be a problem so much from the smell, I think. But I don't think 20 feet is enough. I think 20 feet is way too little. That's basically from me to Kathleen here. That's not very far. So, but the problem is the lot size here in Peru. There's not going to be very many houses that can have a 40-foot setback from another building and still be able to keep chickens.
See, and that's a perfect point, Tim. There's not a lot of people that will fit this criteria. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we're thinking about that we're going to be overrun by chickens.
Well, I don't
But there's not a lot of people that can even fit this criteria.
Yeah, and I understand that, and that's another issue where if the code enforcement is already, you know, at their limits as far as what they're able to do. Yes, there's money coming in, but there's not. She is saying that there's not going to be that many people wanting chickens, and there may not be. There may be a lot. I don't know, but you know, just because you get $100 or whatever, let's say you get 5 people want chickens, that's $350 for permits. That's not going to pay the salary of somebody, you know, to add to the code enforcement. You'd have to have a good amount of take-up in order to pay for another person's salary.
I don't know why we would need a whole other person to administer that.
Well, if they're already doing as much work as they can, giving them more money isn't going to make them be able to do more work. That's what I'm saying.
That would require a whole other salary.
I'd like to hear from the building department and the animal control and see what their thoughts are. You know, I'm not saying that this is something that's not passable, but without the people that are going to have to be the one taking care of it, I think it'd be a foolish vote on our part if we're going to consider it without considering what their take is on it.
He was at the last meeting, and I've been in communication with him. So the most recent information that I tried to talk to him Friday, but I didn't get hold of him over the weekend. The most recent information that he didn't have, because I made more phone calls Friday, had to do with the state being able to handle the diseased chickens, which that was his question last meeting. So now, no problem. He's not even supposed to mess with them. He's supposed to just report them owner
I was more concerned about the building department, the one that comes out and has to look at your property to verify that you can do it, to take the permit, come back and make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do. The animal control part of it would only be if it got out of hand, but as far as you obtaining this permit would all be the building department, would not be the animal control.
There was one
they
other.
would be the ones-
There was one other thing that Greg had a problem with. If somebody that was in the 2-mile area had chickens and they were think they're in the city limits, they're actually in the county.
But that's zoning, that's a zoning issue. We have 2 miles out for zoning, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
But they're in the county.
One of the issues with the 2-mile is the county actually has banned chickens unless you have 10 acres. And so that's where we would be confused of like, where would the 2-mile lay? Like, would they? Right.
It sounds like that's an easy fix, isn't it?
Well, if somebody out in the 2-mile has chickens, and what if county sees it, and then they
So the
enforce
county
that?
makes you have 10 acres and we're going to do it on 1,000 or 6,000 square foot?
That county ordinance is for if you're zoned residential.
Yes.
And in our county, most everyone who hits 6 acres often will say, I want to be mini farm, which changes
Right.
all the state regulations,
uses where
right,
they're-
as well as the county ordinances.
Sorry,
start
I should have
from the
added that.
You guys asked a question about what cities allow them. So I was looking it up. Fishers, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, 12 birds, including 1 rooster. South Bend, maximum of 6. Carmel will allow you 6 hens. Valparaiso allows them, must be kept completely secured and under the control of the owner at all times. Evansville, maximum of 6. Monticello said no on all animals except chickens, so they can have chickens. Those were just some I looked up.
What are you saying, Betsy?
I would like to make a motion to table this, and so we can watch the zoning meeting and get with the building department and bring this back at the December 18th meeting.
I'd like to make one more comment.
Second that.
And I don't think I've heard anybody bring it up. Okay, so.
Hang on, Pete.
You can't
do that.
vote
You
on
got
it.
a motion on the
Okay.
floor.
Yeah.
She's got a motion.
Can't do that.
All right, thank you.
Who
Did somebody
seconded?
second it?
I did.
It's a motion on the floor to table ordinance 33, 2023. Roll call. Anderson?
Yes.
Guston?
Yes.
Plotho?
Yes.
Ramsey?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Dashny?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
This will be on the 18th,
Yes, December 18th.
that's a special meeting.
Yes.
So you're going to add,
It'll be added onto the agenda. Yeah.
basically adding a whole nother.
As it stands, if somebody wanted to build a chicken coop by
Don, you're shaking your head, and we could leave it for you guys.
Okay, we're moving right along here
Only if
as
you
I'm
have
watching
10
the
acres.
clock. We have communications, first from the council, audience also. If you have some concerns, discussion.
The only thing I have, I'd like to thank Cliff at the Parks Department. Him and I have been working on the sand volleyball courts, and we finally got those in place. We got to paint the poles and put the nets up for next spring. And I'd like to thank Mike Boyer and Kokomo Gravel for donating all the sand for the courts. So hopefully that's something that everybody can utilize.
I have something I want to discuss. Recently, State Board of Accounts met with us, and it's public record now. I've been talking with several people over the weekend, and because it's public record, we got dinged on a few things relating to internal controls. Kurt has since fixed them, but,
Now, State Board of Accounts was auditing 21 and 22
right.
prior to my,
That's what I said, yeah.
Okay, I'm
yeah,
just clarifying that.
Yeah,
so that-
this was not, this was not Kurt at all. This was a previous clerk treasurer. I don't know if next year it's going to hurt our credit rating, but this is for all of you who are incoming. When we do, really important that you keep track of what is happening at City Hall. And because of some of these mistakes, when we go to get a bond, if our credit rating is hit, the interest rates could be higher. That's one of my concerns with the golf course is you gotta, who's going to be a city council person next year or mayor? We got Pete and we got Steve. Raise your hand. Okay, so this is your responsibility, is to keep track of what's happening with the internal controls. And I think Betsy's going to talk a little bit more about that, but if you're not looking after what's happening, and I'm not accusing you of anything, please understand that, Kurt, but we have an internal control committee that, in my opinion, failed the city because they weren't doing what they should have done, and I'm obligated to that too.
Kathleen, I object to that statement you made. I think that's a personal opinion.
It's not.
Okay.
It's
it's a
not a personal opinion. It is going to ding us, and this is our job, is legislative duties is internal controls, and we're supposed to be the financial oversight committee.
Okay, there were two items that I can think of right off the top of my head. One of them was the new employees have to watch a video for a half an hour. Teresa has a checklist, everybody watches it. So Teresa's been up there for about 15 months. That's been corrected. It was prior to her assuming it also. Second of all was double checking to see the department heads give the approved timesheets to Teresa, who manually enters the time into the computer. I'm not going to sit there and double check every key punch that she makes to make sure they have. To get around that and to correct that issue, we're moving to a new payroll system at the beginning of the year, because we've had 7 payroll clerks in 8 years. So we'll have a new payroll system beginning of the year. When the department heads approve the hours, it goes directly into the system.
Perfect.
That's taken care of too.
Perfect. One of my other concerns was that at the end of the year, when the bank statements weren't resolved, and
the bank statements weren't resolved one time because, and this was beyond, it took somebody, I'm not bragging, but it took somebody to be able to look at it at a different way. When Susan couldn't get the November bank reconciliation to balance, I went through it 3 times. I could not get it to balance either. I said, something's goofy. Our software people, she looked at it. She couldn't get it to balance either. What happened was there were a number of outstanding checks from 20 and 21. Microsoft did an update at the end of October. When they did the update, all the outstanding checks for 20 and 21 cleared, even though they hadn't cleared. So they just wiped off the books, $25,000. I happened to notice that we were going back and forth. Where are those checks that were open at the end of October? We backtracked it that way, and then we contacted our IT people. They had some fixes to fix what Microsoft had messed up. So that was the issue there.
Okay. It's just so important that internal controls are taken care of. So anybody there's a possibility of it affecting our credit rating for the city. So when if we do this bond with the golf course, it could be more costly for us. So interest rate wise, I just encourage those incoming to pay particular attention to those kind of things. That's all I have.
Can I read something?
Sure, come on up.
Come on, yeah, would you please come up here though, Larry?
What is bird flu? Bird flu, also called avian flu, is a strand of influenza that infects mostly wild water birds, but can also infect domestic birds, poultry, and other animals. These strands belong to influenza A-type viruses. It's not unusual, but bird flu can also infect people. The most common subtypes that may affect humans are, got some different letters. The symptoms can range from mild pink eye to severe flu-like illnesses that result in respiratory failure or death. Keep the chickens out on the farm. There's flocks of...
Hang on, well, we've already tabled that. We've tabled that. Okay.
So I guess we'll see everybody, oh, sorry.
No, we have one more.
I didn't know I need to be on the agenda, I'm sorry. We talked about the last meeting for the police department. Kurt's got the numbers that he told me. I don't know the lit, right, used to be low it?
Yes, below it now it's lit, yes.
Okay. Is that reverting or non-reverting?
It's a fund that money goes into. It doesn't revert. It's a budgeted, I mean, it's a budget item. We expend money out of there.
Okay. Okay. So Mr. Croft has told me that there was about 100,000 in that fund for public safety. That was the number that you all requested last meeting. There's a number. We have 26 officers. I'll just say it. I'm requesting some money, try to keep the people that we have here.
I did not come up with that number by myself. I had Baker Tilly also look at it, Amber, and she concurred. I sent her copies of all the forms after we made some adjustments, all that stuff I was telling you about. There's money here, money there, money there. We got it all adjusted, and there's about $3,000 per officer available.
Does this have to go before the mayor? Does it have to pass the mayor?
It would have to have a revised wage ordinance, which would come to this ever-expanding list of things on the next city council meeting on the 18th. But you would have to do a revised wage ordinance to get it done. And if you pass it, then the mayor has to okay it. If the mayor doesn't okay it, then you have to override the veto.
Should we do anything tonight?
I'm just telling you if you want me to proceed farther, that was what I came up with.
Does it require 2 readings like some of these other ordinances?
It just is the wage ordinance. We did not, if I remember correctly, back in January, we did not have to have 2 readings on when we redid the sanitation department.
The wage ordinance, you
Hmm?
can do it in the same night.
Yes.
For an appropriation,
Do it as a Christmas bonus?
you have to have a public hearing.
Would you pursue this, Kurt?
You guys have to tell me to. I need a majority of the count, the majority of the
Do it
council
as a Christmas bonus?
So we take a vote?
I would think that would be prudent. Tom?
I vote yes to do it.
Yes.
Anybody say no? Does anybody no?
I know.
Anybody have yes? Raise your hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. I'll talk to Amber tomorrow and see what needs to be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
With that in mind, I move we...
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Hey, Josh?
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.